Aloha and welcome to Honolulu to PTC'25, where I'm now joined by André Busnardo, Commercial Director of Tecto Data Centers. And André, it's been slightly of a long journey from Brazil all the way here. How are you feeling and how's PTC treating you so far?
PTC is always an excellent experience. It's I think the 7th time I'm here, so a lot of good meetings, connections. So very nice to be here. And also, thank you for having us.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah, and a pleasure to be here.
I mean, Tecto launched in September, so it's quite a recent company. So what you guys are quite disruptive, not just in Brazil, but Latin America as a whole. Before we go into what Tecto does, let's talk about the market dynamics. So why is Brazil becoming such a magnet for investment in data centers, and how is the country leveraging its position around being a digital powerhouse into really attracting financing investment to build these infrastructures?
I think there are several factors. First, obviously, Brazil being the biggest economy in the region was the first one to attract investments in terms of data center infrastructure. Initially for enterprises, more recently for cloud deployments. And so everything started in the region in Brazil. So there is this experience with the operators, with the construction companies. It's a little bit more known by big techs in terms of licensing, options, all this kind of stuff. Then on top of that, Brazil has a good connectivity, both terrestrial and with subsea, which we participate as Tecto with Vital in that. And then more recently, on top of all of that, still on the cloud, I think with the pandemic, a lot of people think a little bit about it. Oh, it was a boom and now it's like flat. A lot of companies migrated their systems to cloud, and this became even more normal in Brazil. So there is still a lot of lagging companies doing this migration. So I think there is still a lot of opportunities for cloud to grow. But on top of that, we have now the whole world looking for AI, machine learning solutions, which require a lot of energy, require more dense buildings and a lot of infrastructure. And Brazil, with the energy matrix, which is, we have plenty of energy, and on top of that, with a lot of renewable energy, like 85% of our matrix is already renewable against 30% in the rest of the world. And other regions struggling not only with the fact of renewable, but with the availability of energy. Brazil has become a potential hub for even more dense deployments. So that's what we see currently in the region, Brazil being seen as a very good potential to deploy workloads not only for Brazil, but for the whole world.
Yeah, it's become a magnet geography to all this, and I think the fascinating thing about it is that the projects that they are being announced in the country, it's not 10 megawatts, it's not 20 megawatts, it's 100, 200, 300, 1 gigawatt. It's big projects. Even in Europe and even some parts of the US don't get that size. So certainly Brazil is just coming in at full force. But you mentioned energy, and that's quite interesting because you do produce a lot of renewable energy. But can you paint a more detailed picture of what kind of renewable sources Brazil has? Because there's a lot of hydroelectric power, but what else is going to the grid, and how can that power data centers?
Yeah, so I think the first thing to highlight here is Brazil historically is very hydro. Yeah. So that was the reason of our renewable high percentage. And on top of that, we can see two major movements. First, our grid, different from many others in the world, is all integrated. So this helps a lot that when we build data centers near São Paulo, for example, we are able to consume energy that was generated in the Northeast.
Okay, so and nationally it's integrated as one.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. And we have, on top of the hydro, we have a bunch of projects, a lot of new projects with generation both in solar and in wind. So the high percentage of renewable, if you look ahead, will be even more and more renewable. We at Vital, for example, at Tecto, both companies, we are investing in auto production with partners in order to be 100% renewable. So this is good for us, for the country, for our clients, for our customers that require that. So this is going more and more renewable in the future years.
That's quite interesting because that's something that has popped up at this conference today. Can energy become a separate revenue source for Tecto, for Vital? Or is that really just let's just produce it to make sure that this infrastructure can work, and that's just a separate thing? There's some talks about like
yes
can
and
energy
no.
become
Yeah,
like a
yes
new
and
revenue
no.
stream for data centers?
Our particular situation, in a certain way, yes, not as Tecto or Vital, but as our investing group, they have a lot of energy investments. So yes. But looking solely at Tecto, we are looking at producing together with the partners our own energy just to be 100% renewable.
Okay, and of course, so we have this perfect storm where there's demand, cloud demand, AI demand, you've got the energy, but surely there are still some challenges. Every market has challenges. What would you say are the main 3 challenges in Brazil when it comes to developing data centers? And I don't feel afraid to say bureaucracy because that's across the globe.
So I think, as you mentioned, like we have a big opportunity in front of us, and I think with the opportunities, some challenges occur. For example, staying in the energy, we have a lot of generation, but obviously, when you say I'm producing a lot of renewable in the Northeast and I'm consuming a lot of that near São Paulo, we have bottlenecks in the transmission. So this is being worked out, but today. We have a lot of projects asking for 100, 200, 500 megawatts. So it struggles the communication, the transmission supplies. So I think this is something that is being worked. I think there is a lot of regulations and policies being implemented to regulate that. And also investments, obviously. Number 2, I think in the bureaucracy, I wouldn't say that bureaucracy for permits and everything is something. Obviously, it can improve, but I wouldn't say it is one of the biggest factors. But we do have a lot of taxes compared to other parts of the world. So when you go to ML, to machine learning, we're talking GPUs. So this is always something that is being worked. I think the industry is a little bit more organized to show the government the opportunity that Brazil has. So this is being worked, but it's still a challenge. And number 3, as these projects grow more and more, capital starts being like a critical barrier. So it's different, as in your question, when you build a 10 to 20 megawatts data center, it's different from building one of 200, 300. So capital are a lot bigger. Fortunately for us, we are we have the money, but I think some companies will start having the energy, having the skills, and not being able to provide big projects because of lack of capital.
No, that's interesting. On point 2 with government, so the interactions that you're having with them, is it being positive? Are they understanding what data centers do, and are they willing to have this conversation? And like, all right, we're going to look into this, and maybe we can change.
Yeah,
this,
there are
this.
several.
So they understand. Okay.
There are several initiatives. As I said, this is something that is being that is happening now, is being worked on. I think part of it is something that the data center industry needed to organize themselves, and we are a little bit more organized than in the past years to show this opportunity. And we can see from the government, both federal and state, and also the municipalities. Obviously, the municipalities is easier because they are seeing the investment happening there, so they always love to see it. But also state and federal government with good ears to what we need, and gradually I think we will implement some policies that will help a lot.
Sorry, just another follow-up question to that. When Brazilian looks into this, so the government looks into it, the federal government looks into it, what are the conversations around data sovereignty, keeping things in Brazil, foreign relationships? I mean, we are in the US here, there's a trade war with US, China. Where does Brazil sit within all that when it comes to digital infrastructure?
Yeah.
And can the government easily navigate those? Well, it's never easy, but can the government navigate those?
Yeah, it's an ongoing discussion,
Yeah.
right? In the whole world.
And there's no right answer to
data
it.
sovereignty and data privacy and everything. So I think the conversations are happening between both our local industry, the big techs, and the government. I don't see this as an issue for the investments to come. I think, as I said, it's something that is being discussed right now.
200 million people in Brazil. They still use the internet.
but I think that won't be a problem in order for any major investment to happen in Brazil. Oh, we're not doing that because of this X, Y, and Z. I think that's a current discussion all over, and we'll find middle grounds that work.
Okay. Then, of course, another thing that plays in Brazil's favor is the geographic location. I mean, right by the ocean, close to North America. There's the whole of Africa to provide services to and to consume services from. How would you describe the geographic position, especially from a subsea cable perspective? And Vital is much stronger on that side. Tecto plays on the data center side. Vital plays more on the fiber telecommunication side. How does it all come together? How does nature play in Brazil's favor?
Yeah, good question. So if we see, we have a huge concentration of developments in São Paulo region, in the Campinas region, which is São Paulo countryside, a little bit in Rio. And as these deployments started to be more massive, and they do not only support the Brazilian workloads, but also the region workloads and maybe workloads from other parts of the world, the integration, the communication became more and more critical. So one thing that we can see with that is the subsea capacity. As you said, we have the whole ocean. So our coast, which is where most of the data set, even São Paulo, which is not in the coast, we have the cable 80 kilometers from São Paulo in Praia Grande. And so all this integration made that this subsea infrastructure was deployed by local companies such as ourselves, and we have seen recent investments in that.
Yeah.
And an example of that, Brazil serving as a hub for the region, a communication hub, is our own example in Fortaleza. So Fortaleza has become the second biggest internet traffic in Brazil after São Paulo. And the main reason is because there we have a lot of subsea cables. We launched data centers there. They sold out, not sold out, but they sold very quickly.
Sold out quickly,
yeah. So it's more and more clear that not only where you put the infrastructure, but how you integrate that with the rest of the world is important. And the geographical position of Brazil helps that.
I mean, more and more, the industry is becoming, and it's understanding that it is an ecosystem. It's the data center, it's the fiber, it's the satellites that are coming as well, it's the cell towers, it's a whole ecosystem of infrastructure that comes together, not just that single asset in the middle of nowhere or by the shore of a country. But then talking about the ecosystem, when it comes to technologies, what are the most exciting things that you're seeing in the markets, in the Brazilian market, that can be deployed? I mean, there's a lot of conversations around liquid cooling and all sorts of things, but how is that deployed in Brazil? So a country with a tropical climate, I don't know if heat reuse is a big thing in Brazil, for example. What technology excites you the most when it comes to data centers at the moment?
Yeah, so
in Brazil.
What we are seeing is we have a whole legacy of data centers, but with the requirements of what is coming now, it's all new construction, right? Because in order for you to support like 25, 40, maybe 50 kW, maybe we're talking now, and in months or in years will be 100 or 200 kW per rack. You need to build according to that. So one thing that excites me is the not inside only the data center, but this how companies such as ourselves are looking at what is most critical for these workloads, which is the energy supply, the renewable thing, and investing in generation. This is that has two benefits. One we already talked, which is the renewable thing, and the other is the cost effectiveness. There are incentives, and the best way for you to sell the energy at a reasonable price to your customer is to do autoprodução. Inside the data center, obviously you need to build it to support this kind of the needs. When we talk liquid cooling, for example, there is no a specific standard today. So what we are doing is our projects are built to support liquid cooling. Okay. Some of them, when we start to build, if it's an edge data center, for example, we need to decide which technology we use. If it's a hyper, we'll build according to the spec of our tenants. And we are looking at other technologies that may help with that. For example, we hear a lot about batteries to be more energy efficient and more clean. So we monitor that to see if in any given time this is cost effective and will bring a benefit.
Yeah, and energy storage. I mean, you've now opened a Pandora box on the energy front that we could be talking about energy solutions
yes.
for a long time.
Yeah, that's important.
Looking into, again, Brazil's place in the world, it's a large GDP, it's a large economy, it's a country with more than 220, 240 million people. There will be 300 million in the next few decades. Brazil has the potential to become the second US of the Atlantic. Where do you see the country in terms of digital infrastructure on an Atlantic level and global level? What can Brazil achieve in the next few decades?
So
it's a big question.
Big question.
We'll be here in 10 years to see if it happens.
And the world, because of these topics that we are discussing, I don't want to go into energy all the time, but because of energy, the world has become like it's not being seen only as a local GDP thing, but as a whole map where you can deploy infrastructure where it makes most sense. So we see projects in Brazil where our customers say that they are deciding how much to allocate in each part of the world, and we are talking Brazil, India, Australia. So in your question, which is very broad, what we are seeing right now in terms of discussions, and this in, 2, 3, 5 years will be in terms of developed infrastructure. We are talking about Brazil being one of the main global hubs, right? So, as I said, investment is being done, and I think it has the potential to be, it's hard to say a number, right? But one of the top 5 countries in the world in terms of infrastructure, for sure.
One is for sure, you're excited about it. What's the one wish that you have for the next 12 months when it comes to the Brazilian data center landscape? What's the one thing you would like to happen in the country?
A lot of things are already going on, as I said. I think the industry being more organized and having these talks in order to eliminate any barriers. I hope we as a country are able to communicate and to negotiate with all the big techs to give them the certainty that their investment here will be one of the most cost-effective, one of the easiest in terms of barriers in the world. So that we can grow more than we are doing today.
All right. Well, André Busnardo, Commercial Director of Tecto Data Centers, thanks so much for talking to me. Obrigado.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
As for your home, thank you for watching, and do check our website and social medias for the latest digital infrastructure news from across the globe. At the Tech Capital, you lead, we report. Bye for now.